This live stream brought to you by the Excelsior Citizen and these generous sponsors.
The Simmons Sales Team, your hometown realtors.
Our Excelsior Springs Hospital, where better care is right in your backyard. Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit excelsiorcitizen.com today.
Hi, Skylar. All right, at this time I call the meeting to order. Entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So,
First by Troy,
second.
second by Rick. All those in favor? And that passes 5-0. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, need to note that Kenny Manley and Darren McCown is absent this evening. Moving on to entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So move.
First by Rick,
Second.
second by Kalen. All those in favor? That passes 5-0. Next up is recognition. Dr. Bullington.
If it pleases the board, we'd like to present the Classified Employee of the Month, and this month was Miss Pam Smith at Elkhorn. She was nominated by a 5th grade teacher and by Dr. Shelton. So already this year, Miss Pam has formed a bond with several students in 5th grade, as well as in the Ohana classroom in a short amount of time. She puts her whole self into working with students, and it's obvious she genuinely likes the students and they respond to her. Each morning she greets students with a smile on her face as they jump out of the car, hopefully carefully. Her willingness to tackle whatever comes her way is admirable. From the 5th grade teacher, Miss Pam wants to challenge the students in my room and help them at the same time. I believe that this student's growth is due in part to her dedication and to her learning, to his learning. I will say that when we presented Miss Pam out at Elkhorn, she was very thankful for the award, nearly had tears in her eyes, so just wanted to pass that along to the board. She had a huge thank you to you guys for recognizing her. Again, this award is brought to you by our Excelsior Springs Hospital, the official sponsor of our Classified Employee of the Month. We appreciate them celebrating and supporting our students and staff throughout the district. So congratulations, Ms. Pam Smith.
Very good.
All right, next up is our Cornerstone Principal Advisory Council.
All right, if it pleases the board, we're going to have Mr. Sloan and Ms. Broadbent present their Principal Advisory Council. This is what we started last month, and having some students come present to you guys each month, so we're super excited to have these guys this month.
Thank you all for having us. We're excited. I have the most fun job ever when we get opportunities like this to introduce a wonderful group of kids from our Principal Advisory Council. It's somewhat like a student council. We got caught in some COVID and different things last year. We wanted to have something in our school that represented kind of a leadership type role. And so these students, instead of having a runoff election, were selected by their teachers. And they have worked with us. We had a blank slate that we had to work with on the playground. And we thought, oh, we had all these plans in place, and we thought, you know what, why don't we let the kids design it? We have a perfect opportunity with a blank slate. So we got these guys and girls together, and all of a sudden, we had a plan. And so they have been working through that plan, and they're kind of going to present that to you tonight.
My name is Sutton Sullivan and I'm in 4th grade.
My name is Mackenzie Wilkinson and I'm in 4th grade.
My name is Ava Floyd and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Paxton Johnson and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Jordan Orstrom and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Bella Mansell and I'm in 5th grade.
My name is Nick Golden and I'm in 6th grade.
My name is Devin Davis and I'm in 6th grade.
My name is Hudson Bluesfire. I'm in 6th grade.
We have added picnic tables in the grass and have added paint to the blacktop for Foursquare. We have also added paint for volleyball, half-court basketball, and bucketball circles.
The project isn't over yet. There's still more to come, like bucketball.
Another thing we want to add are soccer goals and a basketball hoop.
The Cornerstone PTO is working on planting sunshades for the playground.
Here is a design of the playground project we have designed. The TV image is where we currently are at with the project.
And that's us.
That's good. Very good.
Do you all have any questions for our advisory council?
Did you have fun? You did? Good.
They are a great group, had tons of ideas. It was fun narrowing down everything as we look forward to the future. And it was nice of our 6th grade students to take time out to come back and be with us since they were part of it last year. And we're looking forward to seeing where PAC takes us this year. So hopefully we'll have some progress. We'll come back to you later with some updates.
Very good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right, next up is our October 22 MSBA board video. I'm not sure who the
Welcome to the
alternate is.
October
so
edition
go.
of the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report. We begin with a look at school safety. While physical safety and emergency planning often get a majority of the headlines, bullying continues to be the #1 issue reported to Missouri's anonymous school safety hotline, Courage to Report. As students are making steady gains in academic skills lost to the pandemic, parents and educators report that some students may have fallen behind in their social development. Safe and Sound Schools Executive Director Michelle Gay says that addressing all things that encompass school safety requires a comprehensive approach from schools and communities.
So we've created a comprehensive framework for school safety that really teaches making sure that you're attending to mental and behavioral health, health and wellness, physical safety and security, culture, climate and community engagement, leadership, law and policy, and operations and emergency management. That's a lot. We wouldn't expect everyone to know everything in all of those buckets, if you will, or those domains. But we hope that folks look at that and say, well, I do have a lot to offer in this area because I'm a school nurse, or I'm a school counselor, or I'm an administrator, or I'm a school board member. There's something in there that we all kind of specialize in and are passionate about. And so we bring that to the table. We bring that to the team.
Michelle Gay chose to take action after losing her daughter in the Sandy Hook school tragedy. Since that time, she has focused her energy on improving all aspects of safety and security in schools and communities across the country. She admits that the ever-continuing work of improving all things related to school safety is a difficult task.
The fact that it's hard work shouldn't deter us because good things are hard to do, good work is hard to do. But there are ways to do it, and one of those ways is to hold on to our inspiration, our kids. We do this work because of our kids and because they're our future. So not just because we love them and we're dedicated and devoted to them, but because they are our future. So keeping that in mind, and also remembering that we're not in this alone. We will find our way forward, we will build and we will get better together, is something I think that's critically important for our schools and communities to hold on to during this time when it's all really hard work right now.
Former Columbine High School principal Frank DeAngelis stressed that as school districts work on school safety plans, there is one key group that must be included.
I'll tell you, a lot of times what ends up happening is you have people make decisions, and of course we brought police officers in, we brought firefighters in, we brought psychologists and social workers, including our staff and parents, but don't underestimate the power of the students.
To find out more about the school safety information and resources available to your school, contact MSBA's Center for Education Safety. Michelle Gay and Frank DeAngelis will both be presenting at the 2022 Midwest School Safety Summit, to be held November 2nd and 3rd in Kansas City. The summit is presented in partnership with MSBA's Center for Education Safety and Safe and Sound Schools. Michelle and Frank will also be presenting together at the MSBA annual conference that is being held November 3rd through the 5th in Kansas City. The pair will be joined in the first general session by John McDonald as they share personal experiences and valuable insights regarding school safety. Former NASA astronaut Dr. Bernard A. Harris Jr. will speak during the second general session, and Olympian Jackie Joyner-Kersee will be featured at the third general session and banquet. The conference also includes more than 90 concurrent sessions, a one-day education expo, and much more. Registration information for both the Midwest School Safety Summit and MSBA Annual Conference is available on the MSBA website. And be sure your school board is represented at the MSBA Fall Delegate Assembly to be held on Friday, November 4th in conjunction with the MSBA Annual Conference in Kansas City. The Delegate Assembly will be voting on position statements that will form the basis of MSBA's advocacy efforts during the coming year. Every MSBA member school board is entitled to at least one voting delegate at the Delegate Assembly. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and thank you for all that you do to ensure all students succeed.
Rick, are you the MSBA delegate?
No.
Alternate?
No.
Is that you, Kayla?
No, it's Kenny and.
Oh, it's Kenny and Darren.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you said Rick. I was yours. I know they're both gone at the same night. Okay. All right. Next up is Miss Lisa Shelton for MSBA conference update.
Okay, so you have before you this evening a black folder that has some meeting materials and just general information about the upcoming conference. Dr. Tomlinson has looked at the agenda and selected a couple of sessions that he thought would be really great for you all, for the entire board to attend together, and I think he's going to speak on a little bit. And then we've made arrangements for lunch that same day, and we'll be picking you up just as soon as that second session is over. And let me say, I think a few of you have some extra things going on, Rick, that you've been given those agenda items, or those when that schedule is.
Yep.
So like for the safety summit,
Yes.
and the new board member training. So.
Well, one of the ideas was to see if all of us could go to some of the same sessions and actually be able to talk about some of the learnings we're able to come away with. But also, all of our elementary teachers are being certified in letters training, and this is an opportunity for each of the board members to also receive some letters overview, so you have an idea about some of the academic initiatives that are taking place in all of our elementaries. I just thought that would be a really great opportunity for all of us to partake in that. And then also the very first one talks about Governance Team Award. That's actually how to top performing school boards in the state of Missouri. What kind of traits do they have? What kind of practices do they have? Maybe we can learn some of those things as well. So I thought if we started off with those two and then went to lunch, we could talk about what we learned from each of those, and then I can take you back and then we'll cut you loose from there in the afternoon of different sessions you might like to go to, if that works with you guys.
Sounds good.
All right. Anything else, Lisa? No. All right. No visitors? All right. Next up, we have the interview and approval of the construction manager at risk. I see Newkirk and Novak. Dunn back in the back? Okay.
You're up.
Big crowd back there and I can't see around the corner, so. All right, first up is J.E. Dunn, and we would ask Newkirk Novak to step out in the hallway and shut the door, please. Dr. Bowen, will you close that door?
This way they can openly talk about each other.
Yeah.
We know each other well, so we can talk about it. You want to stand?
Like us. You can stand right up there if you want, or sit. We're
Okay.
Let's stand. So you couldn't even see everything. I couldn't see you, and you couldn't see half of us. So we're missing two people tonight. They're, well, we know where they're at.
Yeah.
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 So we've got 5 questions to ask each group. We'll let you do a quick introduction. We've got 10 minutes, so once we're done with you guys introduce yourselves. Lisa will start the clock, and then we'll go through these. Okay?
Yeah, we'll be quick on introductions so we can get to questions. So my name is Jeremy Baum. Thank you for letting us be here tonight. I have the pleasure of being the lead for our Kansas City K-12 Education Division, and this is my team, and I'll let them speak on their behalf on who they are and what their role is.
Okay. I'm Jeff Miller. I'm superintendent. Been with the company for about 30 years. Most of that has been in K through 12.
My name is Cameron Hayes. I've been with the company about 3 years. I started as a carpenter and have worked in our self-perform group and recently switched to the project management side. and both of those roles spent most of my time in education.
Mike Leisinger, I'd be the lead project manager on the project. Spent all my time with the company, K through 12 jobs.
Hi, I'm Shara Highshaw, Community Impact Education Manager, so making sure that what we build is actually engageable for students after the project is complete. Been in education for 14 years, excited to be here with you tonight.
Lastly, I'm Nathan Darabin. I'm a senior project manager. Been with the company for about 8 years, and the entire time I've been focused in the K through 12 division as well, so also glad to be here.
All right, well, welcome. Appreciate it.
Thanks, appreciate it.
You got the clock ready?
I do.
Just want to make sure we're fair to everybody.
That's perfectly fine.
You tell me when, Lisa.
And there is a cheapskate on.
We
Get it back to center, right? All right, so we're just going to go around and ask the questions, okay?
Okay, you bet.
Start with Kayla.
We're going.
How is your team organized? Who handles the day-to-day estimates, main point of contact, and are they all the same?
So I can jump in with this one. So again, Nathan, so I'm senior project manager, so I will be your main point of contact from the very beginning, the pre-construction efforts, all the way through to the closeout of the project, overall the project. So my job would be to provide oversight to Mike and Jeff and their team, the boots on the ground kind of team, but also be the liaison with you to make sure that essentially what you've got on paper and your dreams and your visions kind of come to reality and everything in between.
So I'll add one thing to that. So we have our own in-house pre-construction team. So they're the ones involved from the very beginning of the project up until the point we got to bid, and then the operations team takes over. That individual's not here tonight because when the interview was on Thursday, we were good, but when it got moved to today, he was on vacation. He's actually out of the country right now. So, but we have a whole team dedicated from a pre-construction standpoint back at the office for those efforts. And we think really that's a differentiator for us and the value we bring to the projects.
Thank you.
How do you keep a quality level in amount of subcontractors, self-perform, and where do you open bids?
I can also take that. I'm not the first one to answer every question. I know you will be. The quality level of subcontractors. So we've been J Dunn, that is, in Kansas City for nearly 100 years. So on top of that, we have a specific K-12 division that does this every day. The same group of people do K through 12. So we have a wide net of relationships and companies of solid contractors that we've built over that time. So I know almost everyone by a first name that I can call to solicit bids. So we leverage those relationships to get the good bid coverage, and as well as we have a subcontractor management system, not to get too technical, but after we receive bids, we've got a system and database that houses all sorts of information that we go over with our risk management team. It says, here's their financial history, here's their backlog, here's their safety record, here's this and that. And the whole point is just to minimize the risk of the partnership. So we've got that net as well to really hone in on the contractors that we sign.
The one thing you asked about where we open bids, that's truly dependent on every client we speak to. We find out how you want to see the bids opened up. So right now we're using an online bidding system. So we can open up bids at our office. We can open up bids at the school district, the Board of Education building, and we can have that session with you and your team. So you can see live the day we open bids, what the bids are, how many we receive, and we can go through all that information with you.
And Jeremy, if I may, one of the things that we're really proud of is that we do open that up to minority and women-owned businesses. So we want to make sure that the people that are involved in your project are including females like Cameron, who also have skilled trades, professional experience, so that folks in the district can see a variety of people building their projects.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
How will you aid and support the district and the community to ensure a successful ballot measure passage? I know last time we did this, you had basically an entire individual who was going to be devoted to that. Is that still the case?
Yeah, since Nate can't answer the question, I'm going to take it. And we do have that, and we've added a resource in Shara from a community standpoint. Yeah, we have in-house marketing, communications. We've gone door to door and help with the Vote Yes campaign. So you have a whole team here in front of you, and also everyone back to the office as well. So still the same, we'll work with Insight on that process. It's very common that we do that. We'll partner with them. We can help with any marketing materials, communications, help with the website if need be. We host the website for our projects, but also we can expedite that and move it forward and host it for a Vote Yes campaign in that manner as well. So.
What is your current workload? How do we, Excelsior Springs, fit into that workload? What processes are in place to make sure schedules are met, and how will you communicate building renovation progress? Because this is like it's a new building and it's renovating some old buildings. So
yeah, I'm going to take this in parts. So the workload piece, I'm going to let Mike talk about that. What Mike's currently doing, because he'll be the day-to-day project manager, and then how that fits with your projects.
Yep, workload-wise, I spent the last 5 years at Spring Hill School District in Kansas. They are finally running out of work, so I'll be done at the end of the year and able to support even before then with whatever's needed. As far as day-to-day schedule, I mean, that's the three of us. Our job, is to look out 6 months every couple weeks, but also just micromanaging the day-to-day schedule, identifying contractors that aren't performing, what we're going to do to fix them or help them along. But really, that's our team and our communication is the key to keeping the schedule.
I can speak to the schedule a little bit too, if I can. We have foreman's meeting every single day. I do this, several of our superintendents do it, but I do it on every job. I've got a dry erase, if you will, Excel schedule on the wall. Those guys, every day we come in and meet, we review that schedule. So when we often get asked, or how do you deal with stuff that's falling? Well, we don't let them fall off. That's the first thing we do. We hold them accountable to that schedule, and we talk about it every single day. And it's very important, because when I started doing that, it's amazing. The subcontractors know that they're going to that meeting every day, so there's no running from it. And I'll catch them in there going up to the schedule, and they're taking notes, and so it's incredible. It works fantastic. It's a very simple tool.
As far as workload, I'll brag on Mike a little bit. So he's supposed to be done in March at the middle school. They're going to be done by the end of the year. And he's worked the past 5 years in Spring Hill. They don't want him to leave, but he's finished 2 bonds for them, and they don't have the bond passing in the near future. So they're going to give Mike up. And so he knew he was ready for this job, so he finished the middle school early to make sure he was ready for your schools.
Okay. And then the last part of it, I know it was all multiple. But no, not the last question. There was one last part. Sorry. Yeah. How will you communicate building and renovation progress? I guess back to us.
Yeah, certainly. So we do weekly reports to show you progress, photos of what we're doing, a narrative on what's happening this week, and then we forecast what's next week. So you can convey that to the community. Everyone can see what's happening with the school. They can see it from a safe distance from behind the fence. We also have a project website, which I mentioned earlier. So we'll post a bunch of information on that website for you to dictate who has access to that website and can see what's happening behind the walls of the school and the project. Like I said, give them full visibility, but from a safe standpoint.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
What traits separate you from your competition, and why should we choose you?
You want me to take part of that?
You certainly can.
I'm sure there's more than one. Part of it is the self-perform aspect. We do steel, we do concrete work, we do precast, we do carpentry, finished carpentry, rough carpentry, demolition, you name it. So we have some of the best tradesmen in the country as far as I'm concerned. They do really good work. They're very conscious of quality, and we can also control those guys a little bit better than we can with subcon. Not that we can't control the subs, but when you're doing your own work, you have a much easier time getting what you need out of the project, both in resources as far as manpower and controlling the schedule.
And just to kind of piggyback on that too, having been part of self-perform previously, just really lets us set an example of the safety and quality that we expect from our other trade partners by having our own blue hats performing some of that work on site as well.
Just to let you know, you're at 1:30, so
Okay.
if you have any closing remarks.
One last thing I would say on that is our pre-construction department. So we bid 20 projects in 2021, totaling $200 million. We came in under that estimate by about 0.45%. So the strength and knowledge of our pre-construction department, especially in this environment, with the market the way it is crucial and important to making sure we hit your budgets for your schools.
Jeremy, is it okay if I hand this up at this time? Because I think this will give them a
Certainly.
chance to take
Yeah.
some time to see that what we do when your project is complete will actually make us the differentiator. So that's just a taste of it for you.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. Any last thing you guys would like to say?
No, if we have any time, I'd like for you to highlight what you just handed out.
Absolutely. So this is a counselor resource, but Building the Future is our new K-12 workforce readiness program. So we look to interact with students every age from kindergarten through 12th grade to help them with the workforce readiness skills and understanding of the construction industry that they need to be successful and to actually come back and work on the projects and change the city that they are so invested in. And so we're really excited to make sure that when the project is over, J.E. Dunn is still supporting you and your students.
Excellent. All right. Good.
Great. 10 seconds to
Spot on.
spare.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much for allowing us even to get to this point to have a conversation with you. We really appreciate that and look forward to hearing from you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You guys have a good night.
You may not get that binder back, you know that, right?
Those are yours, and if you need more, just shout us a holler, and you can each have one if you like it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Newkirk in?
Yeah.
Either way is.
You want it now?
You can, it's just totally.
I thought that yours. Miller's like, I don't know, go ahead.
I was like, what? He listened to me, I'm more impressed.
I don't know which one was worse.
Yeah, I don't know.
You doing it or him telling, okay. What would you like us to center stand?
Whatever you want.
Whatever you want on there, just in case
Stand
someone
in a
else.
circle and sing Kumbaya.
Yes.
Arms up, yeah.
Semicircle.
We'll just stand.
Thank you.
Looks like you guys need to quit being so rough on him.
Probably how you do when you do it.
They're gone
Yes.
tonight.
They're gone, yes. Wonderful.
And down here too.
And this guy down here.
It's a lot of touch
He's
up on
hiding.
these photos.
Sorry.
Really good at Photoshop.
We just need
Why doesn't it have a magnet on it for my fridge?
This is a swag thing. Johnny's in charge of that.
Well, we're changing the name anyway. Mark. Did they leave or they out? They left. Okay. I'll just check. All right, so how we're gonna do it, we got 5 questions, 10-minute rapid fire. We'll let you introduce yourselves first,
Okay.
and then the clock
When
starts.
the clock starts.
Whoever wants to go first.
I'm Lyndon Kirk. I'm one of the owners.
I'm Jackson Newkirk. I was kind of on the 2020 team with Scott, Spencer, and Chuck.
Chuck Gibson, superintendent. I was on the last project. How are you guys?
Anna Boozer, campaign support, communications.
Spencer Brown, project manager, was on the Elkhorn, ECC, and high school renovations.
Scott Mead, I was the point of contact the last bond go around, and I'd be the main point of contact for the upcoming bond.
And John Novak, co-owner with Lyndon Kirk.
I thought he was gonna say with Anna Boozer.
Haven't got there yet. I'm still working on it.
I was waiting.
I wish.
All right, so 5 quick questions, and then we'll let you have your closing and go from there.
All right, how is your team organized? What?
Sorry.
Oh, we're going this way?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. How is your team organized? Who handles day-to-day? Who estimates? Who is the main point of contact? Are they the same?
Person.
Mhm.
Okay. So, that's a 5-part question, so I'm going to ask
I
it.
understand.
So, give me the first part.
How is your team organized?
Okay, so the same way it was before and how we worked with you guys before. So John and I will be very involved, okay? Scott will lead the team and be the point of contact day to day.
I led the pre-construction effort last time, we'll lead it this time. That's not changed at all. The team here, Spencer and Jackson will kind of work with Scott. He'll organize a team, workload, etc. We didn't bring one of our superintendents because you have several projects, several sites to be on, so we expect that there'll be more field support than what we've got on here than we brought. But Chuck will be the superintendent that you have. Anna will be our up front, make sure this thing passes. If there's any public relations stuff that you need, you know what she does.
Yeah. And real quick to clarify, when you say estimating, when Lynn said pre-construction, that's estimating. So he would be leading estimating.
Yeah. Yep. What other parts of that maybe didn't I get answered?
Yeah, day-to-day.
Day-to-day.
Yep, that'd be the day-to-day point of contact, kind of overseeing, working with all the team on what the needs are, and what's going on.
Okay.
All right. How do you keep a quality level and amount of subcontractors? Do you self-perform? And where do you open bids?
Okay, open bids, flexible on that. This is CM at risk, so there's flexibility on that. They can be opened here, but it's not. The CMA, Missouri statute, bids are supposed to be opened privately, CMR. Okay, so you get that choice, but private bid opening, your choice of location. What was the other parts of that question? Sorry.
Do you self-perform?
Okay. Don't self-perform, which is the same way we were before. We think that creates a pure line. We're really thinking and organized around you guys. If we were self-performing, we would have a split interest in that self-perform profitability, etc. So this has worked traditionally for us. It worked great on the last round. That's the way we would stick with.
And how do you keep quality level amount of contractors, subcontractors?
Yep. That comes from subcontractors need to have a clear plan and approach to a project, and we do a good job of that. Some of that is a simple approach to contracting with them, being accessible, and a nimble enough contractor to listen to their plan, incorporate what works, but also be willing to push and pull and tug where we need. The contracting pool, we all go to the same set of contractors, okay? In CMR, in Missouri, we have a little more flexibility with union versus non-union. We can bring both to the table. Some trades, am I right on this, Johnny?
There's prevailing wage. So
prevailing wage, so
pretty
yeah,
flat.
Too much. But our pool is as good as anybody in town, and we can show that through bid results, etc.
Okay.
For those who weren't here when we worked through this last time, how do you aid and support the district to ensure the successful passage of the ballot measure? Talk about kind of the things you did last time, and I'm sure you guys have new steps, so share that with us if you would.
Sure. So that's where I come in, and that's part of my role on the team. Ultimately, the beginning is we start with a plan, right? Is there a vote? Yes. You know, is Skyla up for another round? Last time, you know, we sat down with the district and kind of understood, did a roadmap. What is the district's plan? And then I took that, right, not being a district member, what is the Friends of ESSD doing, and how are those efforts collaborative and making the strides that we needed to make? I mean, ultimately, it's a timeline. I think there's a piece of getting to know the community and understanding which voters are going to come out, which voters are maybe not going to come out, what speaks to them, what the pressure points are, those hot button items. What could we show from the last bond, right? I understand that Lewis is a big part of this one. You know, surely they've all seen Cornerstone. They've seen the transformation at Elkhorn, helping them understand that we can do that for their school as well. Anything I can do to support, you know, Dr. Bullimore, whether it's graphics or imagery, just be an extension of your staff, or if I can work with the Friends of ESSD and kind of supplement their efforts, I'm willing and able to kind of go where you need me, but that's my job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What is your current workload? How do we fit in? What processes are in place to make sure schedules are met? And how will you communicate building or renovation progress?
So I'll address the workload and kind of where you guys fit for us. So we are bringing the exact same team to the table again. So this was a great team for you. They're probably our best team we have. They've worked together consistently on this project and since. So making them available, I hope, speaks to how important you guys are to us. How you fit, this is an awesome bond project. You guys, took a chance on us and gave us a chance to show what we could do. And we will do anything to continue that relationship and own that. The last thing we would ever want to do is let you guys down. So from an emotional standpoint, that's where you fit with us. You can talk about schedule and kind of how we make sure that we stay on schedule. And by the way, we had a great result in the last elementary school. So this is the key to that.
Yeah. So the scheduling starts at the beginning prior to bid. So we're issuing, 5-6 page detailed bid schedule that we issue to the subcontractors with the documents. This helps us lock them in contractually for the awarded bidder to those dates, duration. So it starts there, having a good, clear plan so they know when they need to be on site, when they need to be off site. And then from there, when we start the construction, we got a lot of multiple tools that we use. So one is a weekly look ahead. So every week we got a 4 to 5 week look ahead that we're detailing out so the next guys up are ready to go when they need to be on site, very clear with that. And then we go even to more micro detail with sequencing plans. We're highlighting some. I think we got a plan here that we used on Elkhorn, but we're kind of highlighting the project, the plans with the look ahead that's up there in the corner of that page to kind of show everybody and really illustrate, making sure all the subcontractors, there's no question of where we're at in the project and where we're going, making sure schedule's being hit. So those have worked really well for us. Can you use those?
And just to kind of piggyback off Scott, these also help when we're in our OSC meetings with Dr. Tomlinson and kind of help show where we're at in the project. We're working in area 1, we're moving to area 2. These are the dates that work is going on in those areas. And we're able to share that with and the OSCs and with the principals as well to keep them updated.
And then throughout construction, prior to construction, multiple times in the project, we're meeting with staff. Dr. Tomlinson, principals, Lynette and IT was a part of a lot of the meetings last time. And then on a weekly basis, we've got the weekly progress report. So we'd like that. I think that worked well last time. So we, to whoever has decided, issue that. Dr. Tomlinson, the principals, it kind of shows what we did that week and also what's going to go on the next week. So they can, community, staff, students kind of want to know what's going on. That's a quick reference that they can explain that pretty easily as well.
So our team, we're down to about a minute or a minute and a half, so be efficient with your answers.
We're about out of time for the answer.
Yeah, what traits separate you from your competition and why should we choose you?
Great question.
Jackson.
Well, I would say first and foremost, it's the people that are behind me here, and we are we always say that people build buildings, not firms, and so that's our biggest and most biggest differentiator we have. I think number 2 is ownership engagement. John and I are standing here in front of you. We're the only owners that you're going to see tonight. We're really proud of that. We're proud of being very close to our projects and being committed to our teams, but also to you guys. We think it makes a difference in our organization.
I think one more differentiator is, your project is a priority to our firm, and the size of who we are, we're very strategic about who and what projects we take on, and so it's not like we're not a big, massive organization that's trying to feed something. Your project would be a very big deal to everybody under the roof at Newkirk Novak, and we'd be honored to be part of your team again.
Bam, on the nut.
Just as we planned it.
If you had to pick between Platte County and Excelsior Springs.
Time's up.
Oh, fair.
When you said that you're the only 2 owners, why were you standing in front of Anna?
Well, she's the other owner. It was just her and I.
Is that a company slang?
I'm gonna.
No, it's
see the orange on it. I thought maybe it was a company logo sling.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, branding everything.
We've got to keep Chuck out of the roller rink. That's our deal.
You should see the subcontractor you had to talk to.
All right, that is all we have for you all.
Appreciate it very much.
If you will pass your scoring sheets down to Lisa, put your name on it.
We'll be in touch.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Nice to see you.
See you.
Thank you, guys, ladies. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye, Boozer.
Bye, Scott.
There's the man. Were you out there watching the game or what?
I just never want to be accused of selling information to one of the
Oh.
others. Gotta be neutral.
I'm almost
Okay. We're going to give Lisa just a few minutes to tally the votes, or tally the points.
Okay. Do you want the composite score?
Yeah.
Composite score done, 232.7.
232.7 for J.E. Dunn.
And Newkirk Novak, 269.8.
269.8. Approving tonight, right? All right. So, under the scoring system, tonight was just one part of it. There was a bid process part, and then there was cost. What was the other part? Oh, just the initial qualification part.
Yes.
So it was qualification, cost, interview. Okay. So the composite score were J. Dunn 232.7, Newkirk 269.8. So we don't have to go with the highest or the lowest, but I need a recommendation to hire a motion to hire a construction manager at risk this evening.
Mr. President, I move we hire Newkirk Novak as construction manager at risk for this project.
So moved.
First by Troy, second by Kalen. All those in favor? And that passes 5-0. All right, next up is well, that was your whole thing. I took it from you. So
That's okay.
The financial update, Mr. Joe Keeter.
Yeah, we'd ask, we were lucky enough to get Joe Kinder from Stiefel to come talk to us tonight about different financing options for some of the proposed projects we have on our long-range plan. Thank you, sir.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back here and continue updates on the plan and give you another option, but also make sure I'm answering some questions and making sure we're clear on this, because the plan is pretty complicated, and quite frankly, it's something that's, while we've done it before, it's not something that's done a lot, and it's something that we want to make sure we are being clear about. So I'll just start with this handout that is up here on the screen, and I just want to show you something here, that this is tracking 5 years behind where we're at currently, which is fiscal 23, and then we went 4 years beyond. So we've got a 10-year look here at your total overall levy. And so the numbers at the top are your total levy, and the average of that over those 10 years we anticipate to be about 5.2292, so a little bit higher than actually what it will be moving forward. But the plan that we are speaking on only changes the color of these bars, the mix of the color of these bars. So we are not talking about changing the actual levy that you are putting upon your patrons or asking for them to pay. We are talking about reallocating resources within your current levy in the way that allows you to accomplish the projects that you want to do, and also focus on from a programmatical and from a pay standpoint, and some of those things in operations allows you hopefully to be able to do some of those things. So this chart down here is just showing you that very thing, that you've kind of moved around the mix of what you're doing. But anytime we move money from this side to this side, which would be the case, and this happens to be 70 cents, we've got to make sure we go out and ask our voters before we do that. And that would be, again, taking away from your ability to do facilities as much and as often, if we're talking about, in this case, moving 70 cents over. But with that, you'll get, of course, hopefully this project that you're wanting to get done, and maybe enhance some of your operational revenues, depending on where you go. But no matter where you go, we originally talked about 50 cents and maybe just funding that lease in the movement. Now we've got a scenario tonight that's at 70 cents. no matter where you're at, what we've been focused on is not changing that overall levy, just keeping it the same, but just really moving within the levies that you have. You know, you really just have two ways to levy taxes upon your folks. It's your general obligation bonded debt that you fund through your debt service levy. That's one levy. That's the green bar up there. And then your operational levy, which is restricted on how you can move those monies around. But the fact of the matter is you really only have two taxing abilities there, and we're not talking about changing it. We're just talking about shifting between those two, so that the hope is that your taxpayers continue to see that level levy that you've showed them over the past several years. If we hop down to the next page, this is a 70-cent scenario. Just one thing I wanted to point out, this is your cash flows for your debt service fund. So we are just talking about how annually we project your debt service fund to perform, and so we've got a historical look up there as well, but what we're talking about now is your current debt. And as you know, if we talk about taking 70 cents away, or as you've probably guessed, from your debt service fund, you're not going to be running a bunch of no tax increase bond issues over there. So a couple things to point out, 3 columns in from the right, I guess I should hopefully be able to count. There's a column that's called CTF transfers in. So this contemplates a single election to ask to move 70 cents over. One of the things that we'll need to do, though, because of the way your debt is structured, which it was structured to kind of come back every 5 to 7 years and be able to hopefully ask for a no tax increase bond issue should you need it. So in other words, not ask for a tax increase, is we will need to over a period of that time, what that additional 20 cents would generate is about $600,000, but we're going to have to shift some of that back over into your debt service fund to make sure that we can make those payments and be solvent in your debt service fund. And later on the last page, we can actually track and see what that means in additional revenue to you all on an annual basis in your operations, and give you an ability to actually go into your long-range financial plan then and input those hopeful values that will come in. But I just want to point out that part of this plan would be, in order to move it all over at once and not have to keep going back to your voters and wear them out, is that you do have one particular line item that you can move amongst any 4 funds without really having to do anything other than a simple board vote, and that's your classroom trust fund dollars. Those are the gambling dollars. And so that would get you the one question, get that asked, allow your voters to just have to see one ballot to accomplish this version of the plan anyway, at least right now. I know we talked about what would happen 18, 19 years on down the road. The next few pages are just going to be source material for that first page. So let's run on down to page 5 there. Yep, perfect. So this is going to be your capital projects fund cash flows. This is when we talk about your operating levy and we talk about moving 70 cents of that levy over, you can spread that levy within certain restrictions among 1, 2, and 4 as you see fit. 1 and 2 has to maintain at least $2.75 or you start to get docked your state aid. The idea, though, would be that the lease that is being funded for the Lewis project still would only need 50 cents. So within that, you see that there is only a 50-cent line item there, not 70 cents. The idea would be, again, that 20 cents is available to you as additional operating revenues without having to ask for an additional increase. Again, you see the surplus and deficit column. That's where how you're performing on an annual basis. We tried to leave you at least $50,000 worth of wriggle room. We've got higher interest rates than what they are, so we're trying to make sure we're being conservative and you can deliver on this plan without that eating into your operational budget. And then you'll see there in 2039 that it shifts over into some losses. That's where we talked about maybe needing to either re-amortize that, so stretch that back out, or move it over in general obligation debt via no tax increase bond issue at some point in the future, which is certainly still an option. You are reducing what you can do in the future on no tax increase bond issues, but you will have an opportunity within the next 8 to 10 years to do a $24 to $26 million bond issue under our projections. So you're looking at, again, hopefully you end up in a better spot than that, but you still are going to be able to come back and do no tax increase bond issues. It just won't be that every 5 to 7 years, you're going up to your bonding capacity, whatever that is. So we would project that your bonding capacity is up close to that, a little higher than that at that time, maybe 35 million, but I think on a no tax increase basis, you're going to be looking at something $24, $26 million in 8 to 10 years. But again, this 50 cents will go ahead and fund that lease for you. These lease payments up here, you can see now we do grow your lease payments over time. over that 24-year period, but really what we're at, where we're going from one to the other, we're only raising your payments about $700,000 over 18 years, one to the other, before we get to the point where you've got to do something. We do want to take into account the time value of money. We don't anticipate that your AV is going to go crazy, although we do know you're growing, and we do know you have stuff going on, and that is a positive, which is another reason why we think we'll do better than this. But we do want to take and make sure that we're not leaving money on the table for you all and tell you you can only do a $20 million project or something like that, not account for the fact that the individual dollar does get less valuable over time. We're seeing it right now with inflation rates going crazy, right? We're seeing how much less our dollar can get at the grocery store and at the gas station and all that good stuff. So we want to account for some of that, but there's not a lot of growth in your payments there versus your debt service schedule will go a little bit above and beyond that because we don't have to worry about that impacting your operating dollars, and then we also are just going to be able to use those excess revenues for no tax increase bond issues. So we are being very careful with this. And then in terms of the revenues that you could generate if you did go ahead and move another 20 cents over, that should be that last page with hopefully the Excelsior Springs gold at the top. There you go. So what we've done here now, I've taken the whole 70 cents because I want you all to see how this revenue is going to flow. But if we just look at 2024, for example, we would expect that you're going to get a total estimated revenue of about a revenue increase in your operations of about $2.25 million. With that $2.25 million, we've got that same lease payment that you saw before, about $1.6 million. We've got on that first page you saw, we're going to borrow some money, not borrow, that's a bad term. We're going to plan to transfer some money over to your debt service fund initially to make sure that you're not having to do anything other than just pay your debt and be okay there. But we are going to have a period of time where that comes out. And then this column right here is going to show you the additional revenues you're going to drive. Something that's interesting about this is, this is the year that you would go negative, that 2039, when we would have to do something with the lease. The 70 cents will actually fund the lease all the way through, as you can see. But over the next 18 years, an additional almost $10 million is what we would project would be available to you all in operations over that time. With that number, once we get cleared, once we get 2028, 2029, that number will go up to $750,000 in operating revenues that will be freed up for you to be able to address salary schedules or whatever you want to do from what we call the kid dollars, right? It's not the bricks and mortar, that's the debt service fund. So that is one plan, and those are some of the impacts and some of the things that will happen. I know there's a ton of moving parts, and I know I breezed through that in 5 minutes, but be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
How much do you, pardon me, how much annually will Lewis cost in a lease purchase? Is that this 1.6 million?
That is, between now and 2038, it's that 1.6 to 2.3 million, and then you'll have a choice, whether it's your bond issue in 2033, or you might have another chance to come back with another bond, or 2030, 2033, something like that. You would have a chance to do something when it jumps up to these bigger numbers here. Ideally, hopefully that building, how old is Lewis right now? 100? 70. So we're not talking about needing 70 years to pay this off, but we are capped at 25 years in Missouri. If we could go 30 years, the honest truth is that 50 cents would be done, no problem. In a lot of states, you can go 30 years in your borrowing. Missouri's pretty restrictive on how far you can go. 25 is the cap. But you would have a chance, multiple chances to either do what we call a buyback, which is run a no tax increase bond election and use a portion of those funds to shift some of that from lease debt to GO debt, so it would get out of there and free up that money. Or you could do a refinancing of that on down the line and free up some cash as well. But you will have a multitude of opportunities still with this plan, even if you move 70 cents over.
Now, this doesn't take into account us spending money out of reserves, right? This is just straight on the 70-cent transfer. Will pay for all of this without dipping into any savings that we have, right?
That would be the plan, is that this would fund $35 million worth of improvements, and then whatever is left excess among that 70 cents would be additional revenues. But if that's something you all want to do, that's certainly something you have the ability to do, but that is not factored into this plan at all. It is $35 million for improvements.
Pros and cons, building now, waiting a couple years.
Well, you know, the saying is that construction is never cheaper than it is today. I don't know what those two groups had to say about that, but even with some of the supply chain issues that we're having, I just don't see those construction costs coming back down. I'm not an expert. I've been doing this a long time. We saw it one time where construction costs backed up, but we really only saw it on huge mega projects that firms like these folks would be able to engage in. And the reason that they gave us is they needed to keep their people working. So they actually took losses in 2011 because they were losing too many people out of the trades. I don't think that's where we're at right now. I wouldn't expect construction costs to back up. I wouldn't expect material costs to come down much. You know, I'm not trying to be super pessimistic, and obviously you're talking to a guy who makes money when you do a bond issue or you do a lease, so take that with a grain of salt that I'm saying, go now. But the fact of the matter is I think that now would be a good time to do it. And one of the things that we've discussed internally at Stiefel is that during the last federal stimulus package we got, when the economy started to look like it was, you know, things were starting to not go well, we had the ERA bonds, or the ERA package, the American Reinvestment Recovery Act, come out early in 2009 after the call date for those elections. And so anybody who had an issue on the ballot in 2009 actually got a greater portion of some of those federally subsidized bonds and cash than the folks that came out the next year. It was only a 2-year program. I'm not saying that there's going to be federal subsidies coming down the wire. I don't know what's going to happen there, but we have some indications that we're already in a recession potentially. And if the federal government does try to do something, or the state government tries to do something, there's the potential that you could be primely positioned or nicely positioned to get some of those dollars as well and actually make this thing look better. So those would be the pros to going now. The pros to waiting is you will have some more purchasing power. You know, the presumption is that our assumptions are too low in terms of what your AV is going to do. So if your assessed value is up, you know, much more this year in a reassessment year with inflation that's high, and so what we expect is that even your existing real property values will go up because the assessor will have no choice but to raise property values based on how things are going. You know, when you look at commercial property, they're supposed to be evaluating that off of essentially sales tax revenue is one way. Well, they should be generating a bunch more sales tax revenue back into the community right now because prices are up. So commercial industry should be up. We all know where the housing market's at. It has slowed down a little bit, but all of those things should point to higher values. So you might have more ability to do projects than what it's going to cost in terms of your inflation, or you might see more levy be available for you to use just in general operations.
Your buying power goes up, your cost to do the buying goes up. So.
Yeah, it just depends on where you want to be more conservative in terms of what you're thinking. We're very, we try to be very conservative, but again, that's certainly something you could do.
So we live stream. Jason Cole live streams our board meetings, but can you explain to the taxpayers what raising the tax levy in Fund 1 by 70 cents and lowering Fund 3 by 70 cents, what impact that would have on them?
Yeah, so and that's a great question, Trey. And if we go back up to that first page, that's what makes this plan so confusing. And actually, the ballot question will be pretty terrible as well. I don't know. I'll talk to you or talk to them, but the ballot question is that you're asking for an increase to your operational tax rate ceiling, and then you're making a promise as a school board to lower your debt service levy a commensurate amount so that they don't see any change to their overall tax bill. That's always been the goal. That's kind of where we started these discussions, is to try to get this project done without asking for any additional revenues. So if you have a $100,000 house, at about a $5 levy, that's what, it's probably right about $1,000 a year in property taxes that you're paying on a $100,000 house. That should not change under this plan. And the idea would be that you would stick that going forward, and that's why I put this little black circle here. All we're doing is adjusting the size of those bars and shifting where those revenues are and trying to optimize those revenues to what, your goals and objectives are today, and make sure you can get phase 2 of this construction plan done. So no change is the ultimate, end game there.
It's just moving money from savings to checking.
That's right.
Yeah. That's all it is.
Hey, Joe, one of the things you talked about was we would lose some of our ability to run a no tax increase bond in the future. But if we're replacing all of our elementary schools and rehabbing our high school and middle school, we probably won't be building an entire new building anytime soon. So really having less at no tax bond issue down the road would probably be beneficial just for doing some updates and smaller projects, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I mean, you know, unless you're a growing district and needing to build facilities, it's not necessarily a dire need that you have a debt service levy that it's $1.30. You know, it's nice to have it and you're able to address your facilities in a much quicker way. But if your facilities are in the condition now where it's just going to be keeping it going and all of those other things in terms of the maintenance, deferred maintenance, preventative maintenance, those types of things that we can take care of with bond issues, you'll be in better shape in the long run to have that money flowing into operations and be able to do some of the things programmatically and pay-wise for your kiddos to make sure that you're putting them in a good spot as long as you feel your buildings are in good shape.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Perfect. I appreciate it.
Great. Good to see you, folks.
You should be able to buzz right on into a parking spot now at the game.
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
That's
right.
no
No traffic now.
Just cruise on in. That's right. It's actually it's my birthday and my anniversary today, so I'm gonna go have dinner with my wife. So good to see you, folks.
Thanks for spending it with us.
Yeah. Well, there's no place I'd rather be.
I've got a couple questions for you guys. So I have a couple questions for the board after hearing that. So if we're taking a look at...
He says, I've got to stay now.
You don't have to, it's okay.
No, I'm with this.
I guess my question to the board is what is your appetite for moving forward with replacing Lewis, knowing that that's coming up in April? If we're going to do something, it's an April election. There's not a lot of time. So if this is something the board wants to move forward with, I need to get some direction where we go ahead and act on this sooner as opposed to later. So that's one question, and I want to follow it up with what your thoughts were on what you heard about moving the 70 cents from Fund 3 to Fund 1. In essence, we would keep our tax rate the same for taxpayers, but we would allocate more money towards being able to replace Lewis. Is that something there's an appetite for with the board? And then if so, then I'm going to have follow-up questions about some of the things we need to do to prepare for these large events.
Well, I think we need to move forward.
Yeah.
I do too.
Well, we promised that Lewis would be our next building that we did, and that we would replace it as soon as we could. And we said 3 to 4 years down the road, so we're 2 years now, kicking the can at 3. So, and if we can do it, and we told them we would do it with no tax increase, and this is no tax increase. The best thing I see about moving 70 is it gives us more money, not in the first couple of years, but it will give us money to pay salaries to whatever. I mean, it gives us more operational funding that we can use for other things. So I think it's a do it now and go.
Yes.
Because we can present this to people exactly, do you want us to build a new Lewis? We don't need any more money from you. We don't need a bunch, we're gonna move some money, we need your permission, do you want us to build a new Lewis? And I think the overwhelming answer for everyone in the community is gonna be yes. I think folks know that building's not it's not appropriate for, for the little kids that are in there. It was built as a junior high, and it's
old,
knocking on,
51. So
yeah, it's
51
it's
built
over
51,
70 years
so.
old.
I
So,
just feel like that area of town deserves a new
Yes.
building.
and I think it would
I
revitalize
agree.
downtown.
We deserve that.
I agree.
So.
Yeah, it would be good for everybody. It's a win-win for everybody, and
then we're set.
And we're set. We're done
For a long time.
for very, very many decades. We're done. So, yeah, I think we got to go, and I think it would be one of the greatest things that we could do for the community, and that they could do for themselves. Because if not, at some point, the state may move these elections to November, which would make this a much more difficult thing to do. And in the middle of a confusing ballot in April, it'll be a fairly simple ballot. It'll be a simple question.
One of the questions I have too is, so it sounds like we want to move forward with it. We want to start building towards an election in April and ask to be able to move the 70 cents just from one fund to another. We need to talk a little bit about what that's going to look like. So we've had some discussions internally about what it would take to turn around a brand new building. It's a little different than Cornerstone because we don't have empty land sitting there to be built on. So if we were to move the students next year to another location, preferably it'd be the early childhood center, and try to parlay off of what they have available as far as a cafeteria, a gymnasium, a library. We could utilize some of those features that they have there. Also the fact that it was just an elementary 2 years ago. But we could actually save time and money off the building project because they can come in and start knocking the building down immediately after school is out. That saves us a couple $100,000 of taxpayer money, but it also saves us about 2 months, which makes it more likely that we can have a new Lewis open in time for the following school year. So that's kind of the thinking that we're going through as we're developing these plans. But we wanted to take this opportunity in a board meeting to actually make sure that everybody understands that we're all on the same page and we're all working towards the same goal.
You know, and there's not a, if you build behind the current Lewis and leave the kids in there, yeah, they're still there, but you're gonna have disruption from that, all that construction work.
I agree.
And you're gonna be building pretty much right up to the current building. I mean, there's not gonna be a lot of space in between. If you move them to a learning cottage at Westview.
I'm so glad we converted you to that term.
I know. It's disruptive as well. So, I mean, there's no win that there's not gonna be a disruption in some learning for a year. I mean, there's no way around it unless we can find 15 acres in downtown that we can build a new school on.
Plus, I believe it's gonna be safer for our kids, especially if there's, when they tear that building down, there's gonna be hazards in that building.
I mean, I'm all for tearing it down and building where it's at. But, I mean, that's just my personal.
Well, and that lets us utilize stuff we've already got there.
Yes.
You know, so.
And it's just, I mean, you can't stop the disruption. I mean, you're gonna have it no matter where you're at, so.
Okay, one more question then. So if we're talking about displacing an entire elementary building right across town, there's some challenges to that. One of the things we could take a look at is we do have some opportunity to relocate some students from Lewis to Elkhorn. Now that would require a boundary change, but it would also help guarantee the viability of Elkhorn as a sustainable building into the future as well.
Yes.
Now that can be a pro or a con depending on where you sit on this, but there is some opportunity and bandwidth to have some students where they could go there and not have to move twice.
Or we talking about something very simple like the Ray County line.
Correct. Or something similar.
Yep.
So we took a look, we had our demographers take a look at where those students resided and how many that would mean. There's 59 students that would be impacted. It's roughly 10 students per grade level at Elkhorn.
That would help out there.
It would actually help out there with their capacity. It would also help even out class sizes across the district. It would reduce the size of Lewis and reduce how many students had to be displaced into learning cottages.
And when the new Lewis is built, we could come back and revisit what we've got.
Correct. And my assumption, what we would probably do is leave that Elkhorn line where we moved it to, so it's consistent for people. But then we would take a look at where does the line between Lewis and Cornerstone go, so that both of those buildings are given the best optimization for number of students and teachers. Big decisions, right? But it's important that we have these, and it's important that our public hears about the thought process we're going through as we develop these, and we're trying to be holistic in our approach. So does it sound like everything you're hearing, you want us to move forward in that direction, do the best we can? We'll report back to you as often as you need.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's build
All
a
right.
building.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Are you done with your questions?
Yes, sir.
All right. All Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy anniversary to your wife.
Yes, that too.
Those are hard.
All right. Next up is an approval of the tax rate ratification. Dr. Tomlinson.
We were able to finalize our tax, after our tax rate hearing, we sent these up to the state, and there was a .004 increase on Fund 1 and a .0004 decrease on Fund 3. However, we're talking about. So it's this actual same overall number, but we were able to get that back. So we just wanted to get that ratified by the board so that we could make sure that we had this in the minutes to send to both county assessors.
The overall rate's exactly what it is.
The overall rate is exactly what we passed. We just had to make that adjustment so we match the state auditors.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the tax rate ratification.
So moved.
First by Rick.
Second.
Second by Jill. She's on the board. All those in favor? That passes 5-0. Sorry, Ben, you're last. Save the best for last tonight.
That's right.
Big time, Ben.
Approval of Career Center grants.
So, just wanted to give you guys kind of an update on where we left off last month.
like, I think within 48 hours of our last meeting, we got notice from the state that we got awarded $546,070.75 for our House Bill HB 3002 Area Career Center grant. I was pretty excited about that number because the entire grant was, the only amount available, or the total amount available was $5.5 million, and over 17 million, close to $18 million was requested for it. So we got roughly 10% of the overall grant, which is was pretty awesome. So with that, now there's another opportunity for another grant. You can go ahead and go to the presentation. So with that one, just kind of a quick reminder, that first one, when that same thing, just again, you can use it for design, renovation, construction, and improvement of a school. So the main thing, the thing to remember about this first grant was we have to move pretty quickly on how we obligate the funds. So we have until the middle of May to get those obligated. One of the things that's, obviously that puts us in a time crunch, but the good thing is we'll get reimbursed pretty quickly. The state wants to get those funds off their books as well. So even if we have to dip in a little bit, we're going to get that back pretty quickly. And turnaround time will be pretty quick on how we get reimbursed for that. And then again, can be used for renovation, construction, design, improvement of whatever you have available, or what you have now, or adding for new spaces.
So basically $1.1 million for that one?
Yeah. And so the second one is the federal one. It's a MACO grant. So what would up front, we would be on the line for $533,333 for that. And then we would be reimbursed $400,000 once we had everything completed, obligated, and FE2 turned in. The nice thing about this one is we don't have to move as fast with the funds. We have until the end of 2024 to have those funds obligated. So we have some time to kind of, if we need to, we can kind of slow things down a little bit. Or we can use those funds that we received back from the state for the first one to apply to this one, and we can get those knocked out pretty quickly. Same as the first grant, you can use the funds for design, renovation, and construction and improvement of the school. So on this next slide here, if you look, it's kind of like the overall, what you're looking at. So what are we responsible for? What's going to end up costing us? What will we get reimbursed? So on the far right, the total amount for both grants combined would be just a little bit over $1.6 million. The district would only be responsible for that almost $680,000. So for $680,000, we're going to get $1.625 million. So that first one, if you'll look up front, we would have to put up about $1.1 million, but we'd get back the $550,000. And then on the second one, we'd put up front that $533,000, but we'd get back the $400,000. So that'd be a lot of, on that second one, there's a lot of free money there. So that one, again, the only thing with that is we have to apply for that one by the end of this month, and I just need a board-approved plan to say that, yes, we have a plan for how we're going to use those funds. So that's why I kind of came to talk tonight, because we're getting kind of close to that one. So with that, these funds present an opportunity to expand program offerings at the Career Center, which is a great thing. There are numerous programs available to implement, but I think there are a few that I would like to talk to you about tonight that I think will meet the needs of not only the community workforce, but kind of the local area workforce, and just things that occupations that are in need in general. The first one is a physical therapy / sports medicine program. So right now, I got a lot of information off of the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development site. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with that site, but when you go to their data dashboard, they have 3 different levels of occupation, like positions. They call it the now, which would be kind of your entry-level positions, your next, which is kind of like your diploma plus like some additional college hours, maybe a certificate, maybe an associate's degree, and then later, that would be any kind of position that requires a bachelor's degree or higher. So when I looked at that middle level, that next, because that's where we kind of want to hit. And if you look at that, the biggest need, one of the biggest needs is in our health services, and that was off the local area, Kansas City area workforce site. And the positives to that it would build upon, we already have a very successful health services CNA program. And I think one of the things that was kind of eye-opening to me taking this position was our English teacher had the students create a professional email, and I had them email it to me because I just kind of wanted to learn more about the kids. And the thing that was kind of shocking to me was how many of our CNA kids don't necessarily want to get into nursing, but they want to get into a medical profession, like some other level of the medical profession. But all we have available is that CNA program. So a physical therapy / sports medicine program would be another avenue for those kids to take, but then it would also open up more of those spots for kids that actually want to do nursing as a profession. So, because right now we have a lot of those kids that they want to get in the medical field somehow, but the only option they have right now is that CNA program. And so they're probably taking a spot of a kid that actually wants to get into nursing. So that's one way all of that health services stuff is very popular. I've talked to some of our sending school liaisons, and they said health services is always, when they do like the student inventory, student surveys, health services is always one of their more popular programs. Next one I thought I wanted to explore, it would be a law enforcement program. So you could kind of tie it as a law enforcement / CSI program. You only have to turn on the television for a few minutes before you hear how thinly stretched our police departments are, and how understaffed things are in that profession right now. I think this would be a great opportunity for our kids to get that exposure, that entry-level exposure to the law enforcement field. Would also be an awesome chance for our schools to partner with our local police departments and the county and then surrounding police stations around us. I talked with some of our sending schools. This is another one that they felt would be popular with their students. A lot of the local area police stations and police forces already have kind of like youth programs, but they're geared more to your K-8 clientele. So this would get an opportunity for them to get into that, to the upper level, higher level kid, this junior and senior level kid that in a couple of years could potentially get onto the force. The nice thing is, obviously you're not gonna be able to leave that program and become a cop right away. It's gonna take a little bit more than that, but they are gonna be able to, once they leave us, with the dual credit they earn and the IRC that they can work right away as like dispatch, or it can go into corrections. And then when they get that experience and the age and meet the requirement to join a police force, they'll have that background and be suited and ready to go. The cons to both of these is just a space issue. So right now we don't have the space for these programs. So when you're obviously your biggest obstacle when you're doing the program expansion is the space. So with that money, we do have the great opportunity to expand the space, and I'll get back to that in just a second. But to make sure we moved kind of efficiently in a time-sensitive manner, we kind of been anticipating, hey, what if we got X amount of dollars? What if we got this amount of dollars? What could we actually foreseeably do? So there's been some back and forth with IDS about some possible plans about what that would look like if we added a classroom or a couple classrooms or a more facility space, because we do have the room around us to do that. So what we got back from IDS, if you look right there, would be where the current weight room is. We could renovate that space and put our two new classrooms, where we could house our law enforcement class and our physical therapy / sports science class. And then also that would give us the opportunity to build a performance center right there in that little space between that little green space, that little walkway, right in between where the weight room is now and the backside of the gym and the locker rooms. And the benefit of this would be we'd be able to use that space for not only our sports medicine program, but then every kid in our district would have the opportunity to use that space. So we would have the opportunity then to add on to in an area that we have the room to do it, and it would also benefit not only the program that those kids would coming into us would use, but then every kid in our district then could usually take advantage of that space. So when you think about how you can expand and how we can do that efficiently and where we can get our biggest bang for our buck, I think that's a definite idea or a different thing I would suggest as we move forward, looking to investigate deeply, because I think, again, that's something that can be used by multiple programs at the same time, not just one class. Now, there's one of the things that I know we've looked at in the past that Dr. Bullmore has explored when he was there was a welding program. And we have explored that too, and that's something that still, would be a popular program. But right now, just the cost of that is extremely high. So basically, what we would be able to get with that, or build for that, would basically be the only thing we'd be able to do. So if we took all those funds, we'd be able to implement a welding program, but that's the only thing we'd be able to do for how expensive that is to get going, to build a space and refurbish or whatever we want to do, however we want to get that built. So this provides us the opportunity to double the space and provide an extra space that can be used by everyone at the high school and then other people in the community. The other thing I would mention is right now we're at kind of in a unique time. I would say the current administration in Jefferson City is strongly supports CTE. So I don't think this will be the last time they'll offer these kind of grants. So I think down the road we'll have the opportunity to expand potentially even more. I just think right now, I think Governor Parsons, he is a strong supporter of our CTE programming and career centers as a whole. So I don't see that stopping. The other thing too to kind of consider is our neighbors to the west in Platte County just got a big $30 million grant that they're going to be able to use to build a new facility. I'm not saying we need anything like that, but it also, with this program, especially the sports medicine program, that'd be something that they're not offering that we can, and that would be able to not steal, but we'd be able to get some of those kids from the sending schools that we share, and that would draw them more to our site rather than their site. So that's a couple of things to ponder, because I don't want us to sit by the wayside and, let everybody around us get bigger, and then we're still, hey, what about us now? So I think this is an opportunity. We got, with that first grant, we have, that's a great start, and with that second grant, I think we can make a real difference to what our current programming. And at this time, I'll answer any questions you might have.
So are you thinking of doing both programs?
Yeah, that would be the plan. And we'd have to move pretty fast, so you guys know what will come. If this all gets approved, I can start tomorrow working on getting those programs created and put in for evaluation through the state. And it's not it's just hard, it takes time, because it's not like you're going to offer a new section of Algebra 1. You have to go through the state, you have to get advisory boards, you do a lot of back work, a lot of legwork to get those programs implemented. So I would start tomorrow, start organizing, getting those done. And then, because the one thing I would want to have is, if we do decide to go this route, add a couple programs, we can use enhancement grants to pay for some of the equipment. So that way we're not paying full cost for it. But in order to take advantage of the enhancement grants, you have to have an approved program. So that's why I'd like to move pretty quickly.
And you think you'd have more kids into these programs than a welding program?
I think it'd be about a push. I think if you did a welding, I think you have the capacity if you did either one of them, you're going to fill up. I think the thing is with here, we'd be able to offer 2 new programs, so you'd be able to double the amount of kids. I think the welding program would be a popular program. It's just that would be the only thing we'd be able to offer.
Can that new space, the indoor track and everything, could that also be used as a secondary gym part-time?
I think that's an option we can explore. This is just kind of like a mock-up of what it possibly could look like. So I don't think, this wouldn't be this is exactly what we're doing. This would kind of be an idea. Yeah. So that we could probably talk about more. That was just when we were kind of talking this.
No, you wouldn't have basketball, but
it would have a drop down, pitching. You could do pitching cage, batting cage inside there.
Right.
You could hold some indoor practices probably
right.
for some different athletics, but
tracks, wind sprints, not
right.
sprints.
But there's also I think where that differentiates you is that you get that side room to the upper right there on the picture. That's an actual training room that would be added. So that really would become, that performance center would become a lab space for the physical therapy program. So,
but that'd alleviate, the issue you said with the CNA program. the physical therapy for those kids wanting to go
Yeah.
that direction than
I mean, if
kids
you-
nursing direction.
If you went, I mean, you can, talk to your daughter, like, she'll tell you most of the kids in there don't really have a plan to probably be nurses.
Right.
But they want to get in the medical field, and this is the best, this is the current program that we offer that kind of hits that need, so. And then we also have, like with our EMT, our fire and EMT program, I think we probably have a few in there that probably would rather do the law enforcement side, but we don't offer that, so, it's just a lot of offering, so.
Mr. Ruby, so when you're talking about welding, if we went forward with this plan, would that preclude us from doing welding somewhere down the road?
No, we could, absolutely, we could add welding down the road, like that would be, and again, like I said, I think right now, I really think there will be more grant opportunities moving forward, so down the road, maybe we can reevaluate what we have programming-wise, and if we need to, we can repurpose, reposition, potentially add on to certain spaces. So I think obviously if we went ahead with this plan, the next step then would be investigating how do we get welding added to our program offerings.
Well, and you said these two programs aren't offered anyplace else, correct?
The law enforcement is at Northland in Platte County, which that would be, we just have 2 sending schools, Liberty and Kearney, that send to there, but the other ones don't. The sports medicine, there is one at Herndon, which is Raytown, and at Fort Osage, but we're not fighting for any of those people, so. And with that sports medicine, you have the opportunity, then you can partner with the hospital, you can partner with, Liberty has that big new facility as well too, so I think there's a lot of opportunities to partner with different groups.
So you just need.
What I would ask is, it would be my recommendation that a board approves to accept the funds from the House Bill 3002 construction grant, and then use those funds to renovate existing structures and build 2 new additional classrooms.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any questions for Mr. Ruby? Dr. Miller, would you like to say something? You moved your mic, so.
I was just gonna point out, I'm trying to get the red bar on there.
We can hear your voice.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add on to what Ben and I sat down and actually looked at a whole bunch of different scenarios. And right now, our new teacher program actually has, they're kind of in a space that they don't need to be in. How the classrooms are set up down there is there's an existing classroom, and then on the back of it, there's a lab, or what you guys would probably think of when you think of a shop. So we're gonna actually do some more research to see if we can free up that space by moving them into the 2 additional classrooms. We can kind of move some things around. And once we do that, then we can kind of see if there's a welding program that will fit into the existing space that we open up into the Career Center. So it's not really 2 additional classrooms, it's actually kind of writing. Law enforcement doesn't need a lab, they don't need a shop. So it's kind of putting classrooms where they need to be so that we can better utilize what's currently in the Career Center now. So that's all I was gonna say is don't give up on welding. We created a 5-year plan, and that's very much a part of the 5-year plan moving forward. It's just putting the right things at the right time in the right space.
Okay.
And to kind of piggyback on that, prior discussions were for the welding was to be off-site. And I would personally like to get it on our site so that it's a space that we own, we run, and that we don't have to, make any, allowances for either the district or the space where it's in. So, because I think that was one of the things before was kind of the hiccups was we were going to have it off-site, and I would like to try to keep as best we can something like that on at Excelsior Springs.
Ben's done a really good job. He's got a lot of passion for this. But I will say that I was a vocational teacher, so I'm pretty passionate about this as well. But the state very much is aggressive in their CTE programs. They're all about it. So it's not enough to just add a program here or there. I think we always have to be looking 5 years ahead, just like I look at our programs. K-12, CTE is every bit as important as any other class that we offer at Excelsior Springs. So it's also highly competitive, like Ben said. We're in direct competition with
with other schools in the area. So I just really appreciate the being proactive about it. I'm excited about it.
All right, any other questions?
Before the pandemic, we had made arrangements with the Job Corps Center to trade out on some programs. What's the status? A, what do we know about what's going on up there? And B, are we still talking about letting our kids do like culinary arts up there and some of the things that they had, and letting some of their kids work with us?
We just had a meeting with them a couple weeks ago, actually. They are going through a transition right now because they changed the service provider, who is no longer going to be the same company they've had forever. So there's a new company coming in, and so they're going through a transition, but they were very eager to partner with us and to open themselves up to our students. It's important to know that there are some restrictions. It's not just open like the Career Center is, where any student can just apply to go there. They have to meet certain criteria for the Department of Labor, which limits us quite a bit. But yes, they are willing to partner on culinary. They do have welding, so that is an opportunity for some of our kids currently. And yes, we would like to open up some of our programs as well to some of their students. So I think there's every intention for both of us to try to work together.
And I know they don't have a law enforcement or physical therapy up there, I don't believe.
All right, any others? 7-0 last I saw, just so you know. Not us.
It's DVR'd. We got a DVR.
Okay.
Can't give that away.
But it's just early. All right, all those in favor, we have a first and a second. All those in favor? And that passes 5-0. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ruby.
Thank you.
Who's the second on that?
Rick,
You didn't disappoint.
were you the
Ben.
first?
On
I
motion
was.
to adjourn.